The moment you hit $25,000 in savings, something inside you permanently breaks free. Most people think $25,000 is just a number, but the people who've actually crossed that line know it's not about the money at all. Stay with me, because what I'm about to share will completely change how you think about saving, spending, and building wealth, and nobody in the personal finance space is talking about this honestly. Segment 1. The psychological shift nobody warns you about. Here's what's strange. When most people start their savings journey, they're laser-focused on the number. They watch their bank account like it's a scoreboard. $500 feels good. $2,000 feels exciting. $10,000 feels like a milestone worth celebrating. But somewhere between $10,000 and $25,000, something quietly shifts inside your head. And it's not what the motivational videos tell you. It's not confidence. It's not happiness. It's not even relief. It's clarity. For the first time in your adult life, you stop making decisions out of desperation. Think about that for a second. Every financial decision most people make, whether to take that job, whether to stay in that relationship, whether to move cities, whether to say yes to something they hate, is secretly driven by fear. The fear of having nothing. The fear of being one bad month away from disaster. But when you cross $25,000, that fear starts losing its grip on you. You begin to realize that you've been living your entire life reacting to bills, reacting to emergencies, reacting to other people's timelines. And for the first time, you get a taste of something most people never experience in their lives, the ability to respond instead of react. This is not taught in schools. Your parents probably never explained this. And most finance content online skips straight to invest in index funds, without ever addressing the invisible transformation that happens in your mind first. Because here's the truth, $25,000 doesn't just change your bank account. It changes your identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone who is surviving, and you start, slowly, quietly, seeing yourself as someone who is building. Segment 2. You stop being emotionally attached to money. Before $25,000, money is emotional. Every single purchase carries weight. You buy a coffee and feel guilty. You see a sale and feel panic. Should I spend this or save it? You check your bank account and your mood for the entire day is decided by that number on the screen. Sound familiar? This is called financial anxiety, and almost everyone has it, but almost nobody talks about it openly. But here is what changes after you cross that $25,000 mark. Money stops feeling like a threat. It starts feeling like a tool. And that one mental shift, from money as threat to money as tool, is worth more than any investment strategy you will ever learn. Let me give you a real example. Before $25,000, if your car breaks down and the repair costs $800, that's a crisis. Your heart drops. You start doing mental math at 2 a.m. You feel stressed, embarrassed, maybe even ashamed. That one unexpected expense has the power to completely derail your mental health for weeks. After $25,000, that same $800 repair is just a Tuesday. You handle it. You move on. And your life doesn't stop. That is not a small thing. That is a complete rewiring of how you experience daily life. The emergencies don't disappear, but your relationship with them transforms entirely. You are no longer a hostage to the unexpected. You become someone who can absorb the punches that life throws without being knocked down every single time. And here is the part that nobody tells you. Once you stop being emotionally reactive to money, you actually start making better financial decisions. Because the number one enemy of smart money management is not laziness. It is not ignorance. It is panic. When you are scared, you make short-term decisions. You take bad loans. You accept low salaries. You stay in jobs you hate because you cannot afford to walk away. But $25,000 quietly removes panic from the equation. And the moment panic leaves, logic, patience, and strategy enter. You start thinking in years instead of weeks. You start asking better questions. Instead of, how do I survive this month? You start asking, where do I want to be in 3 years? That is not just a financial upgrade. That is a complete life upgrade. Segment 3. You start tolerating less and expecting more. Here is something that will surprise you. Nobody warned me about this. Nobody talks about it. But once you cross $25,000 in savings, your tolerance for certain things in life starts dropping dramatically. And I don't just mean financial things. I mean everything. The job that disrespects your time, you start feeling it more deeply. The friendship that only takes and never gives, it starts feeling heavier. The apartment that you convinced yourself was fine, it suddenly feels smaller. The relationship where you stayed because you couldn't afford to leave, you start seeing it for what it really is. This is not arrogance. This is not you becoming a different person overnight. This is simply what happens when financial security meets self-awareness. For the first time, you are no longer making life decisions based purely on survival. And when survival is removed from the equation, your true standards begin to surface. Think about how many decisions you have made in your life not because you wanted to, but because you had no financial choice. You took that job not because it was right for you, but because you needed the paycheck. You stayed in that city not because you loved it, but because moving felt financially impossible. You said yes to things you wanted to say no to simply because you could not afford the consequences of saying no. $25,000 does not solve all of that overnight, but it gives you something incredibly powerful. It gives you options. And the moment you have options, your brain starts operating on a completely different level. You stop asking, can I afford to say no? And you start asking, is this actually worth my yes? That shift in questioning changes everything. The people you spend time with, the work you choose to do, the environment you choose to live in, the standards you hold for how people treat you. Everything gets filtered through a new lens, and that lens is quietly built by the financial foundation you have created. Most people go their entire lives never experiencing this. They stay trapped in reactive mode forever, always one emergency away from saying yes to something they should have said no to. Always one bad month away from tolerating something they should have walked away from long ago. But you, by crossing $25,000, begin to exit that trap. Slowly, quietly, without even fully realizing it at first. Your decisions start getting cleaner. Your boundaries start getting stronger. Your life starts getting intentionally shaped by you, instead of being accidentally shaped by your financial limitations. And that is when people around you start noticing something different about you. You carry yourself differently. You speak differently. You make decisions faster and with less guilt. And they cannot quite explain what changed, but you know exactly what changed. Segment 4. You stop accepting what you deserve and start demanding what you're worth. Here is a truth that most career coaches will never say out loud. The reason most people are underpaid is not because they lack skills. It is not because they are not talented enough. It is because they are too financially desperate to negotiate. Think about it. When you are living paycheck to paycheck, walking into a salary negotiation is terrifying. You need that job. You need that income. And the employer knows it, even if they never say it. Your desperation is written all over every decision you make. You accept the first offer. You stay quiet when you should speak up. You smile through disrespect because you simply cannot afford to lose the opportunity. But $25,000 in savings changes your posture in every professional room you walk into. Suddenly, you can walk away from a bad offer. Suddenly, you can take 2 weeks to think instead of saying yes on the spot out of fear. Suddenly, you can leave a toxic workplace without your entire life falling apart. That financial cushion behind you does not just sit in your bank account. It stands behind you in every negotiation, every interview, every conversation about your value. And here is what happens next. When you stop accepting bad deals, better deals start finding you. When you stop tolerating disrespect at work, people start respecting you more. When you negotiate from a place of patience instead of panic, you start winning negotiations you would have lost before. Your income does not increase because you suddenly became more skilled. Your income increases because your financial foundation finally gave you the confidence to ask for what you were always worth. Segment 5. The people around you either grow with you or fall away. This is the part nobody prepares you for. And honestly, it can be the most uncomfortable part of the entire $25,000 journey. Because when your financial life starts changing, Your social life starts changing too, and not always in the ways you expect. Here is what happens. As you build your savings, your habits change. You stop impulse spending. You start being more intentional with your time and money. You think longer term. You make more disciplined choices. And slowly, without announcing it to anyone, you start operating on a different frequency than the people around you. And some of those people will not like it. The friends who always pressured you to overspend on nights out will start calling you boring. The people who complained about money with you will suddenly feel uncomfortable around you because you are no longer complaining. The ones who kept you stuck in a scarcity mindset will slowly start distancing themselves because your growth quietly exposes their stagnation. This is not your fault, and it does not make them bad people. It simply means that some relationships were built on a shared struggle, and once you start leaving that struggle behind, the foundation of those relationships begins to crack. But here is the beautiful side of this shift. As certain people fall away, new people start appearing. You start attracting people who talk about opportunities instead of problems. People who discuss investments, goals, and growth instead of drama and complaints. People who challenge you to think bigger instead of pulling you back to think smaller. Your network begins to quietly upgrade itself, not because you became arrogant or left people behind intentionally, but because you naturally gravitate toward conversations and environments that match where you are going, rather than where you used to be. And this new circle? It accelerates everything. One conversation with the right person can open doors that years of hard work alone never could. One introduction from a growth-minded friend can change your income, your career, your entire trajectory. The people you surround yourself with are not just company. They are either fuel or friction on your journey to financial freedom. $25,000 does not just change your bank account or your mindset. It changes your entire social ecosystem. And if you are not prepared for that, it can feel lonely at first. But push through that loneliness. Because what is coming on the other side of it is a version of your life that your old circle could never have helped you build. Segment 6. You stop playing it safe and start playing it smart. Before $25,000, risk feels like a threat. Starting a business feels reckless. Investing feels dangerous. Leaving a stable job to chase something better feels completely irresponsible. And so you stay safe. You stay small. You stay exactly where you are, not because you lack ambition, but because you lack the financial cushion that makes risk feel survivable. But everything changes after $25,000. Suddenly, risk stops feeling like a cliff and starts feeling like a calculated step. You can invest in the stock market without panicking every time it drops. You can start that side hustle without your entire life depending on its success. You can take that leap towards something better knowing that even if it does not work immediately, you will not hit the ground with nothing. This is what wealthy people have always understood that nobody teaches the middle class. The rich do not avoid risk. They simply build enough of a foundation that risk becomes manageable instead of catastrophic. And $25,000 is your first real taste of that foundation. Here is the most powerful part. The people who never build that cushion stay permanently stuck and safe and miserable. They watch opportunities pass by for years, not because they are not smart enough to take them, but because they are too financially exposed to survive being wrong even once. But you, with $25,000 behind you, can finally afford to be wrong once in a while. And that freedom to occasionally fail without losing. Segment 7. The small decisions that built $25,000 start rebuilding your entire life. Here is something fascinating that happens after you cross $25,000. You look back and realize that the habits which got you there did not just change your bank account. They rewired your entire daily routine. And those same habits start bleeding into every other area of your life without you even planning it. You started waking up earlier because you had financial goals to chase. You started reading more because you needed to learn about money. You started saying no more often because you were protecting your savings. You started planning ahead because spontaneous decisions were costing you progress. None of these felt like life-changing habits at the time. They felt like small, boring discipline, but compounded over months. They quietly transformed you. And here's what makes this so powerful. The discipline that built your savings does not stay contained to just money. It spreads. The person who can delay financial gratification can also delay emotional reactions. The person who can stick to a savings plan can also stick to a fitness plan. The person who can resist impulse spending can also resist impulse decisions in relationships and career. $25,000 is the proof that you are someone who can commit, stay consistent, and follow through. And once your brain has that proof, it starts applying that same identity to everything else. You stop being someone who tries things. You become someone who finishes them. Most people underestimate this completely. They think saving money is just about money. But it is actually about building the most valuable thing a human being can possess, a proven track record with yourself. And once you have that, nothing in your life stays the same for long. Segment 8. You stop thinking about survival and start thinking about legacy. Before $25,000, your financial vision is short, dangerously short. You think in weeks, maybe months if you are disciplined, but rarely in years, and almost never in decades. Because when you are financially stressed, your brain literally cannot afford to think long-term. Every mental resource you have is consumed by the immediate. The rent due Friday, the bill coming next week, the emergency that might hit next month. Survival mode shrinks your vision, and a shrunk vision produces a shrunk life. But something remarkable happens once you cross $25,000. Your brain finally exhales. The constant background noise of financial panic starts going quiet. And in that quiet, for the first time, you can actually hear your own ambitions clearly. Dreams you buried years ago because they felt financially impossible start resurfacing. Goals you dismissed as unrealistic start looking surprisingly achievable. A future you never allowed yourself to seriously picture starts coming into focus. You start thinking in years, then in decades, then in generations. You start asking questions you never asked before. What kind of life do I actually want to build? What do I want my financial situation to look like at 40, at 50, at 60? What do I want to leave behind for the people I love? What kind of impact do I want my money to make beyond just my own comfort? These are not questions that broke people ask, not because they are not intelligent enough, but because survival never gave them the mental space to ask them. But $25,000 creates that space. And the moment you start asking bigger questions, you start making bigger moves. Your goals stretch, your plans deepen, your patience grows. And the version of you that once celebrated having $500 saved starts quietly designing a life that the old you could not have even imagined. That is not ambition talking. That is what financial breathing room does to a human mind when you finally give it enough space to dream again. Segment 9. The goalpost moves. And that is exactly the point. Here is the plot twist nobody tells you before you hit $25,000. The moment you actually get there, it stops feeling like enough. And before you panic and think something is wrong with you, let me explain why this is actually the best thing that could possibly happen. When you were at zero, $25,000 felt like the finish line. It felt like the number that would finally make everything okay. The number that would bring peace, security, and satisfaction. But when you cross it, you realize it was never the finish line. It was the starting line. And the you that exists on the other side of $25,000 is simply too evolved to be satisfied with where the old you set the bar. This is called financial growth. And it is supposed to feel this way. Because $25,000 did not just grow your savings. It grew your standards, your vision, your confidence, and your understanding of what is actually possible for your life. And a bigger version of you naturally requires a bigger goal to chase. So instead of feeling disappointed that $25,000 did not bring permanent satisfaction, feel proud. Because the fact that you are already looking beyond it means the transformation worked. $50,000 becomes the next target. Then $100,000. Then financial independence. Then generational wealth. Each milestone does not complete you, it upgrades you. And every upgrade demands a bigger next step. That is not a problem. That is progress wearing its finest clothes. Segment 10. It was never about the money. Here is the most important thing I want you to take away from everything we discussed today. And I need you to really hear this. $25,000 is not the point. The point is who you become in the process of building it. The clarity you gain, the fear you lose, the standards you raise, the risks you finally take, the people you attract, the vision you unlock, the identity you build. None of that lives in your bank account. All of it lives in you. Most people spend their entire lives waiting for a number to save them, waiting for the raise, the bonus, the inheritance, the lucky break. They believe that once the money arrives, everything else will fall into place. But the people who have actually walked this road know the truth. The money does not change your life. You change your life, and the money is simply the evidence of that change. $25,000 is proof that you can commit to something hard and follow through. It is proof that you can delay gratification in a world that is designed to steal it from you. It is proof that your future matters more to you than your impulses. And that proof, that identity, is what actually builds wealth. Not just to $25,000, but far beyond it. So if you are on your way there right now, keep going. Not just for the number, but for the version of yourself waiting on the other side of it. That version is calmer, clearer, stronger, and more free than anything you can currently imagine. And trust me, that version of you is absolutely worth every sacrifice it takes to get there. If this video gave you even one shift in perspective, share it with someone who needs to hear this today.